Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Trade Out Loud Futures Trading Room. My name is Anka Metcalf, and today is Monday. It is going to be a very interesting week, and volatility is going to be back into the market. It's going to be quite a change from what we had last week. It is then 9:20 a.m. Eastern. It is August 24th, 2026. Literally, this is the last full week of August, and we have NVIDIA that is going to report this week. NVIDIA is going to report Wednesday after the close. We have so many earnings still on, a bunch of retailers. We still have Salesforce that is going to report also on Wednesday after the close. We have Kohl's, we have CrowdStrike. We have so many companies still that are reporting this week. But keep in mind, this is going to be, I think, the last hurrah of the market, because after this week, we are going to be entering September next week, and things are going to get a little bit more dicey. We're heading towards a FOMC meeting. So a lot going on in September with the contract roll, with the quadruple witch option expiration, a lot, but more about that next week. So let's focus on this week. Like I said, NVIDIA is going to be a game changer just because it will report earnings and it's likely to impact the AI space, the semiconductor space. So it's going to have a huge impact on the market. And not only that, but we have a full economic calendar ahead of us. Today, we have at 2 o'clock, we have Treasury Secretary Bissant that is going to be speaking. Tomorrow, we have the CB Consumer Confidence, and Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, we have high impact releases. We have the core PCE price index on Wednesday at 8:30. We have the preliminary GDP numbers that are also coming pre-market on Wednesday. We have the unemployment claims, and guess what? We have the Jackson Hole Symposium that is starting on Thursday, and then on Friday, I'm not sure about the time, but I think it's around 10 o'clock. Fed Chair Warsh is going to speak, and this is going to be his first Jackson Hole meeting. So that's going to be very interesting. And guess what? The market is going to react, and most likely what has been and what will be discussed at this meeting is going to impact. It's so important that it's not only going to impact on Friday's trading activity or the following week's trading activity, but it's going to put the print on the whole entire rest of the year. So we are going to be navigating basically based on the important things that will be discussed in here. So don't take this week very likely, because this is going to be most likely a decisive week. Also, the market is kind of like pricing in a little bit of a rate hike into December. So we're going to see if that is going to be true or not. And definitely, we still have more numbers that need to come out in order to take that decision, right? But we're getting the clues into the market. So let's begin with our pre-market game plan, our technical analysis for the indices. The indices are slightly lower today. And what I'm noticing is that the Dow is holding a little bit better than the rest of the indices. So that is the good news. On the same page, we're noticing some price action activity that could potentially start in natural gas. So we're going to look at natural gas for a potential swing trade for this week. And if you don't like to trade futures, you could also go to UNG. Remember, no commissions when you're trading stocks. And also, you can position size better if you have a smaller trading account. All right, so let's begin with the Dow and the Dow is down 75.0.1%. And so far, we have been facing into the overnight. We're sitting above the medium pivot. So 53,200 is going to be support for the trading session as we start. We have obviously the support level that we have had on Thursday into the 52,800. We had that lift on Friday. We're still trading below the 200 SMA on the 1H. So that is going to be our next resistance spot into the 560. We're also trading within an inside day. So pretty much on Friday, we had an inside day. The day was basically was not basing, but it was trading between the high and the low of Thursday. So Thursday, we had the big momentum down. We discussed about the fact that the 50 SMA was repetitive back in July and also back in June. And right now, if the price action is going to start taking out 500, 500 is the line in the sound. There is an earlier signal, though, around 400 to 420 that us as day traders will be looking at. And also we will be looking at 380 and we will be looking at 350. But all in all, the price action needs to get over 500 to gain a little bit of velocity from the daily. And if that is going to happen, I don't think that this resistance right here, this confluence resistance that we have around the 550 area is going to be an issue because that would be result from the daily. From the weekly standpoint, because we are starting a brand new week, we are trading within the high and the low of prior week's activity, and we're right in the middle right here. There was a little bit of buying that we saw off the 10 EMA. So needless to say that the weekly chart is still into a super massive uptrend. And then, yes, the monthly is very extended. I'm not really a big fan of this monthly candle right here, taking into consideration that we basically have 1 week left of August. And if things are not going to improve with this rotation in the Dow over 53,500, I'm afraid that we may be heading back towards a retest of the 10 EMA and potentially of the 20 SMA as we're getting into September and October. Remember that September is one of the most difficult months of the year. And then here is October, that is one of the most volatile months of the year. Okay. But let's not forget September is the most difficult one. All right. So this is the game plan for the Dow as long as it's holding support. We're pretty much going to be trading sideways. And the first signal for us day traders is going to be when the price trades above 350 to 380. Now let's take a look at the E-mini S&P. The E-mini S&P is down 14 points, 0.2%. It does have a really substantial level of support all the way to the 7640 area. Okay, so right now we are talking about a closer support into the 50 to 55, and that was created by Thursday's price action activity. And then you can see a very shallow price action activity that we have on Friday. On Friday, we have the option expiration. And today, by the way, guys, don't forget, today is going to be the calibration. So the price action is going to try to get back to its normal support resistance, the retesting. It's going to brush off all that pinning that happened last week. So 7,700, you can see here very easily that the price action was pinned at 7,700. That was the area for the E-mini S&P. Now, if the price action is going to get over 77.20 throughout the day today, we're going to be having a very bullish signal that could send the price, guess what, another 100 points higher at least into the 7,800 and back into the all-time high. That is the projection, not only for today. I'm talking about the trigger today. If the trigger is going to happen, if we're going to remain within this range, then yes, we are still going to be compressing. But the trigger that could push the price higher is this high right here, the 77.20. From the 1 hour standpoint, things are a little bit more difficult. We are under all substantial moving averages right now. The price action is just all over the place. We are retesting we are probably retesting the support into the 76.50, and it's normal because this is the calibration. The price action definitely needs to get above 76.90 in order to start progressing towards 7,700. And if it's going to test the 7,700, and if it's going to grab on to that 7,700 and try to lift above, then we're going to get bullish. But if not, there is also the risk of price action getting rejected into the 7,700. And then we have the E-mini S&P on the weekly, which is obviously pulling back into the minor support zone. If 50 is not going to hold, we could totally see A continuation lower, a pullback further to 7,600. The market just opened right now, and here the bell. Again, we have the topping tail here into the mini S&P, which is suggesting that there is some selling action that has been going on. But again, we need to hold these lows right here and try to push a little bit higher if we want continuation. If not, we could signal this week, if we start pushing further lower, this tail is going to amplify. It's going to get bigger, and therefore it's going to increase the selling action as we're heading into next week. But so far, so good. The support is 60. We're looking for a punch over 90 in order to get to 7,700. We break 7,700. We're getting towards the 77.15. And this is the area where we can start lifting higher. We have the pivot point to pivot point, most likely motion right there. Let's talk about NASDAQ because NASDAQ is the most declined index and it is down 250 points right now. 0.9%. And the most important thing is that it is breaching Friday's low and also Thursday's low. So it's taking a leg down into correction territory. Now, if we're looking at the 1 hour chart, it is again below the major averages, moving averages, and it is testing the support from the overnight. It's creating this a block sell that could potentially lead to lower price action into the pivot point. Keep in mind, 29,000 was likely the pinning area for NASDAQ, and therefore it is trading exactly into that area. Let's see how we calibrate throughout the day today. Keep in mind that price action history shows us that the weekly chart is likely to rotate around the 20 SMA. This is what we had on the last week of July 27th right here, the week of July 27th. And notice that the tail went a little bit lower. So from 28,000 all the way to 27,170. So a lot. So we could still have this tail right here that could come in perhaps into the 28,400 or even 28,000 and still move up into next week. But we'll see if that's going to be the case. Needless to say, it is one of the weakest indices. So if there are going to be any shorts and if the Dow and the mini S&P is going to lose any strength that it has, I think NASDAQ is going to be the go-to index for day trading for shorting. So it could potentially run into the 29,000 and it could also run to 28,900. We break below this level. We are moving lower to around 28,600. And then we have the elevator down. All right. So from the momentum standpoint, I really still like NASDAQ from the strength point of view because it's really compressing into the highs. Yes, it does have the topping tail. That suggests selling presence. However, it's still above the 10 EMA. And there has been this 1, 2, 3, 4 months already of price compression. Guys, this is going to be so explosive if we hold and if within the month of September, at some point, whether in the beginning or the middle or the end, we are going to start trading above 30,000, 30,500. That's going to be a massive catalyst. But the first step, we need to get into the 30,000. For the bullish side of the price action is going to start rolling back up. We see a trigger just above 29,550. So we need 29,550. So just above these highs right here, around 500 to 550. But until then, the price action is still under major averages on the 1H. That is not good. And then last index that we're going to be tackling right now is going to be Russell. We're going to do a little bit more of the analysis so we could kind of like have an idea what's going on in the market and where the numbers were pinned into Friday and what is the calibration and how does the calibration look as we're heading into the first hour of the day. So Russell already traded on the daily. This is very interesting. However, because of the fact that we had a declining 10 EMA here, it's going to play yo-yo between the 50 SMA and the 10 EMA right here. So it's yo-yo, wing, go round. This is actually not good because we need to break 30. And if we break 30, we're moving higher. This is where the 30 is at. Needless to say that Russell is still trading under the 200 simple moving average. And the 200 simple moving average is still a big thing, right? Because it still shows the linear resistance along with the pivot that we have. So a little bit more difficult structure. Inside week so far, we break above the high. We're going to continue higher. And keep in mind that we have been holding above the trend, above the ultra power trend here since April. April 6th to April 13, 14. These are the dates that established the massive push that Russell continued to continue to have right into last week, because last week we just made a new all-time high in Russell. This is incredible. So the structure that we have on the monthly is incredible, because as you can see, if we start breaking above 80, which is the high here, 79.9, we are going to move higher. So this is going to be very interesting as we're leaving the month of August and jumping into September. But so far, we just have the open. Remember, the open is going to need to calibrate, and it's going to need to digest Friday's option expirations pinning. All right. So some levels that we're going to be watching as day traders here in the trading room are going to be 30, 25. And if the price actions get a little bit weaker, it's not going to be my go-to index. Okay. It's not going to be my go-to index. 30,000 is still massive support right here. So there, we could still expect buying to occur around that level. All right. So let's get into something that is a little bit more exciting. Gold with a brand new high. We did have a target at 4,600. We do have a target at 4,700. And so far, so good. It is trading above 47.38. We are in the swing trade. And again, in months like August, in months like September, we're going to be focusing a little bit more on what goes outside of the index spectrum. And we're going to start focusing, as always, and we're going to be right on to stocking other instruments like gold, like silver, like platinum, like um, for example, like natural gas that we're going to be talking about, like copper, because when these trades become super crowded, like the futures indices, money's shifting elsewhere. Okay. So now we have Bitcoin, and needless to say, yeah, I still have that position that I initiated at the beginning of the year in Bitcoin. Okay. So still there, just holding it, HODL. Anyways, so our entry in gold is 45.20. Look at where it's at right now. Okay, 47.20. So we're up. So even if we had losses in the indices, this trade that is totally hands off is making up for it. Okay, it's making up for it. So swing trading to the rescue. All right. So gold, like I said, we're looking for further targets. So far we had beautiful 2 targets achieved. If you want to take some partial profits here, you may do so because we have achieved the second target. And you know that it is a rule that the easiest target to achieve, because it's trading into the first resistance, is target 1, and then target 2 and 3 become a little bit more difficult as price gets a little bit more tired of advancing and just hitting resistance after resistance. So this is the first resistance layer that we had at 4,700. The next one is 4,800, and then we're heading towards the 5,000. So you could see it clearly right here. We're 4,900 as well as resistance. You can see here the 4,920. And then if the price action, and that is the big if, we're already in the money or already have like substantial gains in this trade. But if the price action gets over 5,000, we have a very easy track towards 5,400. So if the things with bonds are going to continue to dampen the market, then guess what? Money's shifting into gold. Money needs to move. Money's energy. Money's circulating. So it needs to move somewhere. People need to make money. Big investors need to make money. So this is where they're at. And like I said, don't like to trade GC. GLD is just perfect. We called GLD with numbers as well in the trading room. And here we are trading into almost 430, 429.42. Now we're going to look a little bit at oil. Oil is kind of like, compressed. It just doesn't have that, trigger positioning. It's starting to trend a little bit here. It's starting to power trend onto the daily, but it's still very much sideways, still trading into a lot of resistance at 87. It breaks the 87.50 or 87.80. It could potentially start bouncing a little bit higher. I think the name of the game is going to be the high that we had on the 20th, and that is 87.69. So if we break 87.69, we are perhaps going to start moving a little bit higher. But remember, this is such a massive resistance because not only that it's coming from this high, but it's coming from the pivot low right here. So it's a minor resistance area. That's why we have been hovering here for the last about 3 days, 3 to 4 days into this area, and we're not expanding. And again, if it trades above that high, things are going to get wild and it could pick up the pace all the way to 93. Now, let's move on to something that we are watching, and that is natural gas. And like I said, you don't like natural gas, you go to UNH, but this is on my scanning this morning. I just saw some potential movement that could happen in natural gas. We have been basing in natural gas for quite some time, for a month. And I think that things are getting very interesting as we're heading into closer to the winter months. And we could potentially have a pop up here. Now, the price is still under the major averages. There has been substantial move in the overnight trading session, and basically starting with 4 a.m., we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 candles to the upside. So that's quite interesting. Okay. Um, by the way, Microsoft is setting up for a massive breakout. Just letting you guys know, those of you guys that are swing trading stocks, okay? I like to have your money working in in the stock market as well. But anyways, we're going to talk more about that later. But what I'm seeing here is that natural gas could potentially have a pop-up. Okay. So I'm not taking it right now, but I will let you guys know this is a huge minor resistance level between 280 and 290. And if 290 is going to be tested, then there could be some momentum going into $3. And $3 is going to be the next line in the sand. With natural gas, you got to be right on the money, set tons of alerts, and take profit levels because this is wild. It's called a Widowmaker for a reason. All right. And last